Live from Capital University here in Columbus, Ohio, we bring you continued coverage of 2018 TBT, and today the Midwest Regional rolls on. We got a full slate of games for you, beginning with the number 5 seed, Always a Brave, a Bradley alum group, going up against 12-seeded PrimeTime players. Take a look at the bracket real quick, and you see here that the winner of this one will take on the winner of our next game, Big X, a group primarily made of Michigan and Ohio State alum up against the Chattanooga Trenches. The number 1 seed and favorite in this regional will take on West Virginia Wildcats. That's Scarlet and Gray, the Ohio State alum, later today. Good morning, everybody, and welcome into the broadcast. Glad you can have your breakfast with us this morning with Rich Savosik. I am Brian Dito, and Rich, full slate of games, 12 games over the next 2 days here at Capital University. 4 of these teams will be moving on to the Super 16 and TBT in Atlanta. Let's start with our first game of the day. However, we have Always a Brave, the 5 seed, going up against PrimeTime players, the 12 seed, and both of these teams have played together for a long time.
Veteran ball squads and PrimeTime players, an organization started by Chris Thomas back in 1991. Bradley, made up of all Bradley alumni, obviously, Always a Brave, led by Marcellus Somerville. Curtis Withers, for PrimeTime players, are the 2 key players in this contest.
Yeah, and you mentioned Curtis Withers, a weathered veteran, again, an elder statesman, to use a kind term as well. Talk about his career, because this guy's been around for a long time. He's played everywhere.
Well, a 2-time all-conference player in the Atlantic 10 when he was at Charlotte. Since his graduation, he has played in 14 different countries on the professional level, most recently in Argentina for Comunicaciones Mercedes. He is a guy who can score in a lot of different ways, get to the rim, shoot the 3, an exciting player, an elder statesman. And then on the flip side, for Always a Brave, Marcellus Somerville, very similar type player to Withers. Somerville, a 3-time all-conference player at Bradley in the Missouri Valley Conference, and has done very well in this tournament. Has played for 14 years overseas, but has averaged almost 20 points a game in this tournament.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the rules. Again, sort of a hybrid between NBA rules, collegiate rules, and then international rules. You see the 4 9-minute quarters. Fouling is most similar to what we see at the NBA level. 6 personal fouls disqualifies you. 5 fouls get you into the double bonus in each quarter as well. You have goaltending. This is more of the international flavor, where players can actually knock the ball off the rim, barring a free throw. We have yet to see that yet here in Columbus after the 2 playing games last night, but that is a possibility. And moving on from there, you look at some of the other rules that have been involved here. The timeout situation, pretty similar. You got the 3 30-second timeouts, 1 60-second timeout. You have that first half timeout, use it or lose it as well, still applicable. And then the new introduction in its fullest, the new to TBT, the Elam ending. So essentially, again, if you're new to this, under 4, first dead ball situation, game clock shuts off. Immediately, we look at whoever's winning the ball game. From there, they will add 7 points to that score. That becomes our target score, and the first team that reaches that total ultimately wins the contest. That came into play last night. We'll get into it here, but first we're underway here in Columbus, and the opening tip goes out of bounds, and it'll be Always a Brave to possess.
It's interesting to look at this Always a Brave team, primarily made up of their Sweet 16 team, although they have added a couple of younger guys trying to get some youth movement going. Short
baseline deuce by Somerville, rims out. And driving the other way is Sean Barnett, who's got 3 years of TBT experience. Both of these teams with a lot of experience in this tournament specifically. Always a Brave made it all the way to the semifinals 2 years ago. Made it to the Super 16 last year before bowing out to Scarlet and Gray. PrimeTime players involved each of the last 3 years as well, and have gone multiple rounds on occasion too. Has played some tough contests against some of the elite teams, not to use a pun against overseas elite in this tournament. Somerville gives back out to Zach Anders, back on top to Somerville. Tony Bennett out of Chicago launches a 3, and a good start For the guard out of Westinghouse High School, 34 years old, is Tony Bennett.
11 years overseas. He still hasn't lost that touch. Neither is Curtis Withers. Right on cue. And as you watch the opening minutes of this game, both teams going to play man-to-man. You very rarely will see zone in this tournament unless you're watching Boeheim's Army, of course, as Syracuse alums are only allowed to play the 2-3 zone.
Bennett launches and comes up short. Score is 3-3. We're having a bit of a technical difficulties to start with our scoring graphic. There's 7:30 remaining here in the first quarter, and that gives primetime players a 5-3 lead. That's Chris Moore, who's an electric scorer for this primetime team. MVP of the leagues they've played in the last 3 years in the ECBL. This primetime team has won 7 consecutive championships in the leagues they've played in, going back to the Tobacco Road League into the ECBL. And at some point, Rich, winning just becomes your culture. As a coach, you got to think when you expect to win every day, that's got to carry some weight.
Oh, absolutely. And a tremendous organization developed by Chris Thomas. And since 1991, they have been playing. You see Barnes knock one down. But it's a group that used to play, when the rules allowed it, they would play a lot of exhibition games against Division II and Division III schools in the area. You know, as rules have changed, they've changed with them, but they continue to win.
There you get a look. The man leading the way. For primetime players, we thought this would be one of the more tightly contested battles on the day. We've seen the 12 seeds already in this tournament have success against the 5s. It sort of mirrors what that old cliche, or not really the old cliche, but what's happened is the 12 seed has had a lot of success in the NCAA tournament against these 5 seeds. There's a reach and foul.
Well, the toughest teams to seed are those, because, you know, the 1 and 2 seeds normally are guys who have been fresh out of college, maybe 2 or 3 years, borderline NBA players that you'll have in this tournament. But when you get down to the 4 or 5 seeds, you know, then you don't know who actually is going to be in shape, ready to go for this tournament.
And always a Brave again out of Bradley alumni group. That's out of Peoria, Illinois. This is the second team already this weekend we've seen here in Peoria. Peoria All-Stars, who knows a lot of these former Bradley players. They won last night in dramatic fashion. I'm a Chicago guy, Loyola guy, and Montel James sending the Peoria All-Stars into today's action. They'll take on Team Fredette a little bit later. We got some substitutions coming up for Always a Brave. And this Bradley group, one of the deeper rosters we've seen as well in TBT. They're going to go to their bench a lot.
No, yesterday, in that second game, West Virginia put up 113 points with only 7 guys in uniform. It didn't seem to bother them. So I've always believed if you got the right 7 guys, you don't need 9, 10 guys. All those guys do is get in your way sometimes, because everybody wants playing time. I say that, and then I look at some of the guys here for the Always a Brave team that have graduated from college back in '06, and they're still playing. They may need a little deeper bench.
Yeah, without question. We saw that West Virginia team, and they're all in their mid-20s, a lot of Marshall alum, and you replace the 2 with the 3 on the front end, and a lot in their 30s here for Always a Brave. They're going to look at Chuck Fisher, the coach of Always a Brave, and really a Peoria coaching legend. Coached a lot of these guys in high school and then in college as well at Peoria Central High School, the school where now just Peoria High School, where 3-time NBA champion Sean Livingston attended. Top 5 overall pick in the 2004 draft. 7-5 primetime players lead, approaching 5 minutes remaining here in the first quarter. It'll be out of bounds, and they'll stay with Always a Brave. Patrick O'Brien, the number 9 pick overall in the 2006 NBA draft to the Golden State Warriors, checks in. Part of that Sweet 16 group, O'Brien had a monster tournament and wins over Kansas and Pittsburgh in that tournament as Somerville comes up short, and the rebound to Barnett. And J.J. Twy getting the deflection, trying to coax the call his way, but it'll stick with primetime players.
J.J. Twy sniffed that one out, as a good detective would do.
Is that a pun that you just made?
Yeah, that was. For those of you who don't realize it, J.J. Twy now is a detective, a police detective, that is, down in Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah, this is his first year in TBT, and a lot of it had to do with just scheduling conflicts and in a different role. Now a detective, kind of create your own hours a little bit more. He's able to spend the time to be here. Hasn't been able to the last couple of years, but an instrumental part of that Sweet 16 team in 2006 as Somerville fades with the right hand short. O'Brien trying to keep it alive. Marcellus Somerville and one. 9-7 to score. 4:23 remaining here in the quarter. Primetime players with the lead.
And Brian, that's the question that is going to have to be answered as we move through this contest. The ability for Primetime to handle the size inside by Always a Brave. And O'Brien's doing a good job of keeping the ball alive, and Somerville finishing it off.
And Somerville, one of the leaders of this team, and one of those guys that played for Chuck Bisher, who was an assistant coach on that 2006 Sweet 16 team. Somerville, a famed career really in overseas in France, has been one of the best players in one of the most competitive leagues in all of Europe for the better part of a decade. Barnett kicks right side for Moore, guarded by Gavin. Dumped on the low block, and Always a Brave gets the steal off the double team. Twy will bring it up, and officials.
You got a shot clock malfunction, wasn't reset. Yesterday we had some problems with the shot clock. Actually, it was kept by the official during the game, but we never quite got down to where it came into play.
Shots got up early and often. We'll take a timeout on the floor. 4 minutes remaining here in the corner. 9-8. Primetime players on top of Always a Brave on ESPN3. With Coach Z, Rich Savosic, I am Brian Beto back here in Bexley, Ohio. Been calling it Columbus, right on the edge of Columbus. 9-8 primetime players on top of Always a Brave. Game 1 of 8 we have here on the ESPN family of networks throughout the course of the day. We'll be here all morning, all afternoon, and all night. And some exciting basketball coming up. And Coach, off to a really good start. Very entertaining first 4 minutes. Very evenly matched between Always a Brave and PrimeTime players.
Well, both teams have played pretty error-free basketball. Gavin trying to hit Somerville on the roll a little bit too long, but able to knock it off a PrimeTime player. Both teams running similar offenses, the high pick and roll, trying to create some mismatch, an advantage-disadvantage situation with the switch or double team.
Somerville long three is short. And more of the rebound. Into Barnett from the elbow. And a good box out by Marcellus Somerville to collect the rebound. Gives to Jimmy Gavin. Gavin stutter step dribble and creates space but can't finish. And Moore is there to pick it off yet again.
They're going to have to get solid play out of Gavin. Not a deep bench for Always a Brave in the backcourt.
Yeah, one guy that is not here today that is a tough loss for Always a Brave, but individually great as far as the reason is concerned. Walt Lemon, who terrific contributor last year. First, we get a look at that moving screen.
Moving screen, you can see as he slides his butt into the defender, Tony Bennett. And that's really not the screener's fault. That's the dribbler's fault. He's got to wait till he gets set.
But to finish that thought, Walt Lemon signed a two-way deal with the Boston Celtics after spending the NBA Summer League with the New Orleans Pelicans. Played 5 games for the Pelicans last year. So a tough loss for Always a Brave. And good defense on that trip. And Daniel Ruffin, the speedy point guard, pulls up from 17.
When you talk about Lemon, he was going to be part of that youth movement as Ruffin able to jump the passing lane.
Is super quick. Even at age 33, hasn't really lost much of a step as Daniel Ruffin from Peoria as well. And Tony Bennett helps create a turnover off of the hands of Sean Barnett. And back over to Always a Brave, who has their first lead at 10-9.
You can see these PrimeTime players have played together for a while and very well coached by Chris Thomas and Pierre Steins.
Ruffin gives to Gavin. They recognize him as a shooter. Good defense. He goes up anyway, but again, that's talk about coaching. That's good recognition, though, that they know that's what Gavin can do, and really good help by Jervon Presley to knock that one out of bounds. Gavin left side and scores.
Well, Gavin, who's noted as being a three-point shooter, not much of a driver, showing some versatility in his game.
The one guy on this team that didn't have a long career at Bradley, started there as a walk-on, finished his career as a scorer at Winthrop. And Presley is off the mark with the jumper. Dante Thomas, the recently graduated Bradley alum, with the rebound. Ruffin weaves in, and from 3 is short. Here's Terrell Smith to bring it up for PrimeTime. Gives to Mike Davis, Francis Marion Queens University alum. Early in the morning, we've seen a lot of short shots. Need some legs into it.
You know, Mike Davis, fresh into the game, needs to get a couple of touches.
And numbers breaking out ahead for Terrell Smith. He tracks it down and knocked out of bounds. I believe last touch by Gavin, and it is.
That was a terrific job by Daniel Ruffin, sprinting back on defense. It forced the pass to go long and took away the transition opportunity.
Got to look at Terrell Smith, the guy who averaged 17 points per game in the 2 games last year for PrimeTime. This is his 4th year in TBT. And Always a Brave really stepped it up defensively. No field goals for PrimeTime since the 4:44 mark. And that'll stay here. The shot clock did not reset, as that didn't touch any part of the rim. Odell Turner out of Wingate, who was teammates with Sean Barnett at the college level. Gives it to his former collegiate teammate, and there's Ruffin again, getting his hand in there, and then a foul is coming up on PrimeTime as Tony Bennett tried to sprint out.
Ruffin is one of those guys, he's always around the ball. When the post player brings the ball down to the Rugrats, you take your life in your own hands, and Ruffin able to knock it away and create the turnover.
Yeah, Ruffin, a guy who, when Always a Brave got to the semifinals 2 years ago, had an Achilles injury just 5 minutes in, and Always a Brave really couldn't recover in that final 4 game. Gavin, pump fake, steps back, guarded nicely by Davis, gives in to Matt Sally, give and go to Gavin, tried to find a cutting Thomas, but good job by Barnett to thwart that.
Now that's one of those plays, if you're Gavin, get the ball up on the rim. You know, Dante Thomas is running in to get the offensive rebound. Even if he had caught it, it would have been a tough finish for him. So if you're a player and you're a guard going to the rim, just put it up down the rim. Let your teammate get a chance to clean up the miss.
Into Ruffin, Bennett top of the circle, finds some space. And the foul's coming up on Matt Sally. That's just the second team foul on. Oh, never mind. They're going to change the call. It's actually going to stay here, and that's the 15th foul, and that's on Presley, and that'll send Matt Sally to the stripe.
Good correction by the official. I was wondering how he was calling it on Always a Brave, because Sally had done a good job of creating some offensive rebounding position, quite frankly. Presley just, that's all he could do to prevent him from getting the easy offensive rebound.
It's Matt Sally. This is his 3rd year here in TBT, originally out of Charlotte, North Carolina. 32 years of age. Knocks down the first, and Bradley going with some defensive substitutions here, and J.J. Twy and Austin Barnes.
Sally has been Mr. Efficiency in this tournament. 12 of 14 over the span of tournaments from the field.
Always been a high percentage shooter in this tournament. Dante Thomas gives Bradley the last possession, so they bring in 2 defensive substitutions. They end up with the basketball to close out this first quarter, leading 13-9. Tony Bennett guarded by Mike Davis. They'll clear out for Bennett, who's been Mr. Clutch in this tournament. Draws the contact, late whistle. PrimeTime didn't love it, but Bennett will shoot 2.
Well, once Bennett gets his step on Davis, he's got no other choice. He grabs him from behind, and the official caught him.
I reference Mr. Clutch for Tony Bennett, not only from his collegiate days, but here at TBT 2 years ago. Buzzer beater in the Super 16 with his team trailing. Always a Brave to send them on. One of the more exciting finishes we've had over the last couple of years, and he makes a pair at the line to give Always a Brave their largest lead here in the first quarter, leading by 6. Barnett has it partially blocked, and Always a Brave walks away. They get it done in the defensive end. They go ahead and take a 6-point lead. So after 1, it's Always a Brave 15, PrimeTime Players 9. You're watching 2018 TBT, the Midwest Regional, here on ESPN 3. Welcome back to the basketball tournament. First round action in the Midwest Regional from Columbus, Ohio. TBT is excited to welcome aboard Puma Basketball as an official sponsor for this year's edition of the tournament. With Rich Savosic, I am Brian Beto. 15-9, always a Brave on top of primetime players. And coach, at least from where I'm sitting, they did it on the defensive end.
Oh, they certainly did. They created some offense from their defense, forced primetime players into 6 turnovers in that first quarter. And quite frankly, between the defensive pressure and some very good offensive rebounding, has created the lead for always a Brave. And as we go into the second quarter, keep an eye on the inside play. And can primetime negate the size advantage that always a Brave has?
They'll see what they go with, and they'll possess to begin the second quarter. You saw just a moment ago the Bradley contingent always supporting their Braves here in Columbus. And the winner of this one will take on the winner of our next contest, Big X. A lot of Big Ten alums, including Ohio State and Michigan, going up against Chattanooga Trenches. Here's Victor Street muscling his way in, and a good start for primetime players. Street, really the leader of this group, according to Chris Thomas, starts it off nicely for primetime.
Oh, a terrifically designed play coming out of that break. Well designed, well executed.
And then he coaxes the steal. Street the other way, up with the right this time, and scores. 4-0 modest run for primetime to start the second quarter.
And Victor Street, one of the old guys on this team, graduated from Erskine back in 2010. Actually told me he's expecting his first child in 2 months. He's having a little baby girl.
Awesome, as Dante Thomas strokes one from the corner.
Dante Thomas showing some range. You didn't really see him shoot jump shots when he was a player at Bradley, but as we've talked about before, once you graduate, your skill set becomes a little bit different because your team needs a different facet of your game. And Dante Thomas, a terrific rebounder at Bradley, in the top 10 all time, showing some range.
That was the active leader in rebounds in the Missouri Valley through his senior year. He was second team all MVC this past season out of Thornwood High School, same high school as Eddie Curry, who we referenced last night. Turner from the foul line draws the contact from Ruffin, who may be boxed out prematurely.
And Ruffin didn't allow Turner to come down after he went in the air. The official caught him. Nice extra pass by Mike Davis.
Turner to the line in primetime. One of the more interesting and really heart-wrenching stories of this tournament is they're playing for, and it's one of their originators. And Will Massey, a guy that helped name primetime and has been part of that organization for more than a dozen years, needs a heart transplant, quite frankly. And primetime playing for him and help maybe sponsor some of those medical bills, and a guy that's really close with Chris Thomas for a long period of time too. So really neat that they're stepping out to try to help out one of the founders of this organization.
And that's what you'll see from a lot of these teams that are playing in this tournament, that they're playing for a purpose beyond basketball.
Good block by Withers, and it goes out by us. And I'll make a play. Primetime, who really struggled to score in that latter portion of the first quarter. Getting some good looks here to start the second at the rim.
Doing a good job of executing their offense, and you can tell these guys have played together for a while. Everybody knows where their teammate is going to be.
Davis muscles one up and gets it over to scores over Zach Andrews in primetime within one.
Mike Davis showing why he was a key component of that Queens team, Queens University, that went to the Elite Eight in Division II. Terrific scorer.
Thomas steps out from three, and Davis the rebound. Street, who spent the last 7 years now with PrimeTime, crosses over on Barnes just inside the lane. And Andrews collects the rebound. Gavin will slow things down, gets the high ball screen from Zach Andrews. Skip pass in the corner, Thomas to Andrews, jump stop, wide open, Gavin for three. Tony Bennett directing traffic. Goes opposite the ball screen now with it. Weaves between defenders, trying to hit a cutting Barnes and on the floor.
You know, as you look at that, Bennett got into the interior of that defense. Tried to squeeze one into Barnes. Good rotation by PrimeTime players to knock it out of bounds.
Somerville off the curl. And Davis is there yet again. One and done for Always a Brave. Davis being ridden by Barnes. And a good offensive rebound by Withers. Pump fake, now leans in on the up and under. And Gavin is there. Wide open, Somerville in the corner for three. And O'Brien's going to be called for shoving off of Odell Turner.
That's a terrific job by Odell Turner.
Really is.
Boxing out the much bigger O'Brien. He understands that he's given up about 6 or 7 inches. You can't just run into the rim. You've got to back the offensive player out of the lane. And Turner did an excellent job of doing that.
Played 3 seasons with PrimeTime in total. Again, 7 consecutive championships between the Tobacco Road League and the ECBL. And they're going to tempt Turner into a 3 and a foul on the rebound. And it's going to stay here. And again, good activity by PrimeTime down low to draw that other possession. Drew the foul on Austin Barnes. That's already the 3rd team foul on Always a Brave, not at the midway point of the quarter.
Well, Davis went to the offensive glass, would have had it, but Barnes fouled him. Davis creating some activity on the offensive end in more ways than one.
Davis looking on the pick and roll, and the Braves read that. Somerville the other way, crosses over. O'Brien will try from 3. That's good. And that's a perfect example of a guy that expanded that part of his game after he was in college.
You know, I thought about the previous possession. Gavin, who is supposed to be the 3-point shooter, misses the wide open 3, but O'Brien, maybe they got him playing in the wrong spot.
Street forces his way in, up and no good. And there's O'Brien the rebound, looking ahead to Bennett. To Somerville, who lays it in.
Oh, terrific outlet pass by O'Brien.
So O'Brien, the former lottery pick, giving Always a Brave a spark. There's Withers. Closed out nicely by Barnes. Opposite the ball screen goes Davis. Up top, Withers. He's hit one from there earlier, and he sticks another to quiet the Always a Brave crowd to cut the deficit in half.
That's the versatility of Curtis Withers that made him one of the best players in Charlotte history.
Posting up is O'Brien, squares up, and again, there's that size advantage.
Oh, he's feeling it. He's feeling it.
O'Brien, who appeared 90 games over 4 seasons in the NBA between the Warriors, Celtics, and Raptors, played guys like Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. And he's given Always a Brave a spark. They lead by 5, 3:52 remaining here in the first half. times. He was here at Capital University in Columbus, Ohio, always a Brave on top of PrimeTime players, 24-19 as we at the midway point of the second quarter. Brian Vito, Rich Savosic. Coach, maybe not the offensive firepower that we saw last night. The energy level's really high, especially for early in the morning. Defense, it's been the name of the game so far.
Both teams doing an excellent job of converting from offense to defense. There hasn't been very many runouts, and consequently, that's why the score is so low. You can tell these are two experienced groups and two experienced teams. A lot of veterans who know how to get it done on both ends of the floor.
PJ Heath out of D3 Allen University comes up empty. Somerville's left open for three. Drifts out of bounds. It'll go to PrimeTime.
Somerville has got some good open looks that he hasn't been able to convert on.
Yeah, typically a really good three-point shooter. Here's another good shooter in his own right. Moore, underhand shovel to Barnett, who's wide open.
That was terrific rotation by J.J. Twy, preventing Withers from getting that open three.
Ruffin gets space on the pump fake and connects from three. It looks like he almost leaned that one in with his body language.
He looked like he was trying to decide whether he was going to shoot it or try and get it to O'Brien down low.
And O'Brien gets his hand in the passing lane out to Twy. Stops on a dime, back out to Ruffin for two in a row. There's Twy to pull it out, and it's kind of J.J. Twy's role. He always made the smart play.
He was that glue guy.
He was. Somerville spinning baseline, draws the double out to Twy, back to Ruffin, who'll try yet again. This time it's good. Daniel Ruffin, the Peoria native, is feeling it. Back-to-back triples, and always a Brave out to their biggest lead, up to 11. Trying to answer on the other end is Moore, can't get it to go, and there's O'Brien with the board. Get into the hands of their hottest player right now, Daniel Ruffin. And Withers is there. Withers got a smooth shooting stroke. Shot that one early, and then Somerville was wrapped around the wrist.
Daniel Ruffin coming out on fire this morning. The ball fake gets the defender to fly by, and then watch the extra pass by J.J. Twy. Ruffin knocks it down.
Sally to Gavin. Good closeout by Terrell Smith on PrimeTime.
You got it.
Sally using the size to his advantage, but Smith is there. There's Moore, MVP of the ECBL the last 3 years. It's been held in check to an extent so far. Good ball rotation and has one spit out, but Heath is there for the putback.
Terrific job by P.J. Heath. 2016 grad from Allen and Somerville. Nice job of sealing off his defender. No help side, easy basket.
Very good find by Peoria High teammate Daniel Ruffin.
Chris Moore had too much time.
Yeah, I know.
Study long, shoot wrong.
They'll post up Somerville, guarded by Barnett. Back to the basket, he'll back in his defender. Fades in the lane and has it spin out, and somehow Tony Bennett got in there amongst the trees, but is whistled for the foul.
He was trying to climb the ladder by grabbing Presley's arm. Hey, when you're the smaller guy on the court, you got to do whatever you can
Absolutely.
to try and negate that disadvantage.
So here's Devon Presley, 6'8" out of Hampton. Guy that's played all over the map. Played with Showtime in 2016 TBT. First year here with primetime players in this tournament.
Has seen some time overseas, played in Finland, played in Israel most recently, played for Hapoel Haifa, or Haifa, I should say.
And cuts the Always a Brave lead to 9. Again, get a look at Chris Thomas, who apparently is an avid football fan. Has been at the Canton Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrinement each of the last 28 years. Believe that?
Well, I tell you what, it's a short trip from Columbus, about an hour and 10 minutes up the road.
Probably seen some players from Ohio State get inducted in that gold jacket. And get a listen in to primetime.
He's coming right here. Going up that way. You guys, you do one thing. You can trail him out because you know he's going. You can either trail him out or you can try to shoot him coming over the top. If you stay on his hip right here, you'll be able to get the steal. Okay. They probably run that right here in this corner. Right. The biggest thing is get the stop right here. Let's get it up. It's the big stop right here. Hey, don't let him get to that spot right here. All right, let's go. Defense on 3. 1, 2, 3.
So kind of help you out on what Victor Street was talking about. You know, they're looking at potentially Bennett or Ruffin. I guess it's going to be Bennett coming off a stagger screen, or Ruffin actually back in the game. Defensive guy can either jump the gap, or as Victor Street said, you trail him. You lock on his hip and then you trail him through the screen so that you're there on the catch and you don't give a wide open 3. So there's a little bit of scouting going on in game with these two teams.
There's about a 1 second differential shot clock to game clock. So Always a Brave can't quite all the way run it out.
And that's what they're looking at. Look at it. Oh, well played.
That's living well there, but Somerville can't connect. And that'll end the first half of play. Great energy and defensive effort on both sides, but where we stand, Always a Brave, who is led by as many as 11. They take a 9-point lead into the locker room. We'll step aside, take a timeout. Be back with the big picture, rest of the bracket, first half stats, highlights, and more coming up next. You're watching 2018 TBT, the Midwest Regional, here in Columbus on ESPN3.
You know, every team we play is going to give it. And we know what's on the line. We know every team we play is going to give it their all. We like that.
We can pull this off, and it's something that should be written about.
The two-time defending champs, overseas elites. That's elite. Now 14-0. The two-time defending champs are into the round of 32.
It's almost like when you win too much, everybody's against you, kind of like the Warriors.
DJ Kennedy. Can he go coast to coast? Yes. DJ Kennedy doing his best to make sure overseas elite advances to Brooklyn and the Super 16.
I think people are waiting to see us lose, wanting to see who's going to be the team that beat them, and we thrive on that.
Part of the reason why they've been able to win 2 years in a row, part of the reason why they're so effective tonight is they play the game the right way.
They play the game the right way, and they play the game with terrific spacing.
Standing by, watching what Overseas Elite generally does in this tournament. Take your best punch, just keep the cruise on through, and that's where they are right now.
If there's any guys I'm willing to go to war with and put my check on, it's these guys.
Roselle again. Can't stop him. 6 out of 6 from three-point range. 17-2 run right now for Ram Nation, first 7-point lead. And the lead for Overseas Elite. 17-0 run right now. Kennedy for 2, and that could do it. 78-70 with 1:19 left to play.
Boeheim's Army has not led since the first half.
This is a clinic on attacking the zone.
Kane for 3. He's got it! And Overseas Elite still has an opportunity to put $2 more million in their pocket. I'm telling you, this feels like a heavyweight bout.
I know we're going to have some second half, Doug.
Overseas Elite, your defending back-to-back champs, have clawed their way back from a double-digit deficit to put themselves back in this game.
How about that play? How about that play by Kyle Fogg?
Shot clock goes off as Kennedy goes cha-ching! It's a TBT three-peat for Overseas Elite.
Halftime here in Columbus, always a Brave, leading primetime players by the score of 32-23 with Rich Zavosik. I am Brian Vito, and Rich, very entertaining first half. Both teams really playing with a lot of energy on both ends of the floor. Always a Brave. You look at what they've done so far. What really stands out to me is the little guy and the big fella, Daniel Ruffin, Patrick O'Brien.
Well, Ruffin knocking down some threes, but O'Brien patrolling the paint. Also very good on the offensive end. They have forced 8 turnovers in the first half, and also they have done an excellent job on the offensive glass, and that's why they have the 9-point lead.
Yeah, let's check out some of the highlights that incorporate a lot of Daniel Ruffin, Patrick O'Brien. A couple of guys that have really provided a spark when primetime players got off to that good start.
Well, Ruffin able to get to the rim and then knock down the 3. As you're going to see on the extra pass, he's able to bury it. And how about Patrick O'Brien? He says, hey, okay, Daniel Ruffin, little guy, shoots the 3. I'm 7'1", I can shoot the 3 as well. And then the rodeo shot off of one leg, able to convert in the post. And then on the flip side, Curtis Withers trying to lead primetime back, able to knock down a couple of 3s, score in the interior. They're going to have to rely on Withers' scoring ability here in the second half to get back in it.
First half stats, neither team shooting lights out in the first half, but I credit a lot of that to the defensive intensity on both ends. Anything really stand out to you? Relatively even, but look at points off turnovers.
Well, always a Brave. Excellent job of creating offense from defense. 16 points off of 8 turnovers. You can't get any better than that.
Super efficient, and a lot of that was led by Daniel Ruffin. Whether he scored off the turnover or forced the turnover was a big part of Always a Brave. Again, a guy I mentioned earlier who suffered an Achilles injury that ended his day in the semifinals in 2016. Always a Brave again, made it to the Super 16 a year ago. Fell to Scarlet and Gray, who we'll see later this afternoon, the 1 seed and the favorite in this Midwest Regional. As Zach Andrews gets his hand in the passing lane, and he's fouled. Andrews, who's got a lot of TVT experience, but this is his first time playing with his former college teammates at Bradley. And a guy that's played in the G League and the Iowa Energy, Lakers affiliate, Grizzlies affiliate as well.
He does a nice job of moving his feet in the post, knocking it loose, and creating another turnover.
Austin Barnes will inbound. The winner of this game will take on the winner of our next one, Big X, who's formed primarily by Ohio State and Michigan players, but also some other Big Ten. Got a couple of Clemson guys in there as well. It'll be a fun one going up against the Chattanooga Trenches. Winner take all, $2 million prize, trying to take down Overseas Elite. You saw that package on their three-peat at halftime. They've already punched their ticket to the Super 16. 4 more teams here in Columbus trying to do the same thing this weekend. Good find underneath to Somerville, who lays it in.
Well, credit Andrews for keeping that possession alive, hustling on the offensive glass.
More to Withers. And let's see if primetime can get him going. He's an electric scorer, as we've mentioned. Bradley group, a good job containing him so far. Bennett on the run out. Skip pass, good anticipation by Moore. Coaxes the steal, and Smith was tripped up by his teammate. I believe.
You know, Presley got
that was Presley, yeah.
His feet tangled with Smith in transition, but prior to that, primetime, an excellent job of getting back on the defensive end. You can see Presley catching his back heel of Smith. And Smith looked around, thought it was always a Brave player, but it was his own teammate trying to hustle down on offense.
Popping out, back to the basket is Andrews. And now looking for Ruffin instead, finds Somerville. He fades and uses the glass. You gotta love that old school look off the window.
John Wooden is looking down, smiling, using that glass. That shows you how old Somerville is.
And Sean Barnett, he's a good segue, as a guy who kind of grew up idolizing Scottie Pippen. Scottie was really good at utilizing that jump shot off the glass in the 90s.
No, he gets him on the move, Withers. And once you get your guy, the defensive man, in this case Withers, leaning on your back feet, and he throws it to the scorer's table, and then you got him in jail.
We've been active here. We've got a few balls our way here this morning. Our usage rate is really high.
They're trying to keep us awake. They're making sure we're paying attention.
Bennett guarded by Barnett. Andrews out of California. Somerville trying to zing it in there to Barnes. That's deflected back out to Tony Bennett again out of Chicago. Westinghouse High School to Somerville. It's been cold from 3, but that changes this time.
How about that? That Somerville hustles back on the defensive end. If you're a young player watching this game, what Marcellus Somerville did is he didn't celebrate after he makes the 3. So often you see guys celebrating, don't get back on defense. Somerville took away the offensive possession for PrimeTime with great defensive hustle.
And you're always a Brave, and there is more hustle flipped on ahead to Tony Bennett, and he lays it in. An 18-point lead for Always a Brave. They led by 9 at the break, and they're on a 7-0 run to begin the second half. See if PrimeTime can answer. They do have the firepower to do so, and that would have been a big shot from Smith, but it comes up empty. Barnett collects the rebound, back out to Moore. They really need this one, can't get it. And Ruffin, and a heat check for Always a Brave.
He was about 4 feet behind the line. But that's not actually a bad shot because he had numbers and unfortunately just bounced off the wrong way for Always a Brave.
Again, the activity by Somerville.
Somerville getting on the floor. Barnes alertly looking ahead to Tony Bennett streaking down the floor. And Chris Moore with a couple of free throws here. Perhaps a chance to get on track for the Charleston Southern alum. A young man who scored over 1,100 points in his career. Played professionally over in Germany for Bayern Munich.
This is his 7th TBT contest. He's averaged double figures in this tournament each of the last 3 years. And he makes a pair, and we've said this multiple times, really need him to get going. We know of his scoring prowess. Everything's just been contested for PrimeTime, it seems like. Ruffin working off the high ball screen from Andrews. Calls him away and gives to Bennett, who's bumped. And maybe a little dramatic there, too.
Yeah, a little acting.
Why not?
I guess he watched a little bit of the World Cup. He watched the soccer players.
Exactly.
And they get a little tiny bump and they fall down. Tony Bennett drew the foul with a good performance.
Yeah, he learned from Zach Andrews. He was a theater major in college, so maybe they relayed some of that.
See running the box set on the sideline out of bounds for Always a Brave. No doubt one of their plays when they played together at Bradley.
Most of these guys played under Jim Less, who terrific player at Bradley, and now the coach at UC Davis. And Tony Bennett hits the step back jumper.
Daniel Ruffin, one-man full court press.
Stay with PrimeTime. Just good rim protection underneath. Always a Brave team, really loaded in the front court.
So the size advantage is really taking its toll here in the third quarter. Zach Andrews coming over, leaving his man, playing good team defense. Knocked it out of bounds.
Moore, a skip pass opposite corner. Smith, and just haven't gotten a lot of bounces. I feel like a lot of his shots have been in and out. Bennett on the bounce pass to Somerville, who squares up and one-on-one, and he just bowls over the undersized Terrell Smith.
Yeah, Smith does a nice job of getting his feet moving. You're going to watch him. He resists the temptation to reach, moves his dogs. And once Somerville lowers the shoulder and Smith falls down, it's an easy call for the official.
And Smith also in his 7th TBT game, spanning 4 seasons now. And Moore will get the ball screen. And Presley. And finds a little bit of breathing room and connects on the jumper. That's all he needs.
You got your score if you're prime time. Now you got to get a stop.
Good anticipation by Moore and one-on-one, and he finishes at the rim. Bradley's run that play quite a bit, and it was read perfectly by PrimeTime.
You know, Chris Moore doing an excellent job outside, keeping pressure on the basketball.
Dante Thomas gives to Gavin, looking for the curl of Somerville, who wasn't looking for the pass. 2-on-1 ahead to Barnett, and he lost it on his way up. And that's a break for Always a Brave, as PrimeTime looked to be gaining a little bit of momentum, would have put him on a 6-0 run.
Well, some tremendous defense here by Chris Moore, getting his hand in the passing lane. Able to protect the ball with his body, finish that layup. PrimeTime creating some good offense out of their defense. They forced their 4th consecutive tournament. We're going to go to timeout.
3:48 to go here in the 3rd quarter. Always a Brave stretching their lead to 14. Brian Vito and Rich Savosic halfway through the 3rd. You get a look at Always a Brave up 14. We talked a lot about Chris Thomas, GM and coach of PrimeTime players. Chuck Fisher, the coach of Always a Brave, a Peoria High School legend, as I mentioned. Other coach, Jeremy Crouch, who was teammates with a lot of these guys. One of the best shooters in the country when he was at Bradley. GM, Bobby Parker, who works in the athletic department, the Associate Athletic Director for Communications and Facility and Event Operations. That's just man of many hats, we could say, has put this team together now for the last few years. Trying to mix in some youth, and you saw the youth right there with Dante Thomas ahead to Ruffin on the run out.
Dante Thomas sprinting at both ends of the floor. Oh, he's got him wide open.
Bounce pass on the Thomas, slow block. And there's Heath. He's had some good minutes off the bench for PrimeTime.
PrimeTime gets another stop. Can they get a conversion on this end?
He felt like it was a matter of time for one of Smith's jumpers went down. He's had some good luck. He's had some tough bounces off the rim, and he knocks one down. He can be a prolific scorer, and we got a ball game, 11-point game.
Oh, he's too good of a shooter to continue to miss, but really it's PrimeTime's turning up the defensive intensity that has got them back into the game.
Without question. Bradley having a tough time scoring due to that tenacity on the defensive end from PrimeTime. Looking to post up Sally. Thomas muscles his way in, had it stripped by Heath. It'll stay with Always a Brave, just 2 on the shot clock, however.
Heath does a nice job of cutting off the baseline. Thomas unable to get around him.
Always a Brave led by as many as 18. A 9-2 run by PrimeTime.
Got recognition. Got to recognize the shot clock. Oh, well done.
Couldn't finish. Well, good play design. Had a look.
That was a very well-designed play. Thomas perhaps rushed it a little bit. He had more time than he thought.
Moore with the quick burst.
You know, the one thing that has hampered PrimeTime is it's been one and done. No offensive rebounds. Good job by Always a Brave limiting the shots.
Looking on the back cut to Bennett. He was bumped, and that one's on the floor. Just the 3rd team foul on PrimeTime. 2 for Always a Brave here in this 3rd quarter.
Terrific read by Bennett. Good recognition by Thomas as you take a look at Jeremy Crouch. I think you were a little bit understated when you said he was one of the best shooters. He led the country.
He literally was the best.
He led the country in three-point shooting percentage. So better than just one of the best. He was the best.
Actually, that Bradley team, just looking at the numbers, had 2 in the top 10 that year. In 2007, Danny Adams, another one in the top 10. The year after that, he made a Sweet 16 run. Ended up being part of the NIT. Just not too shabby either.
Make you a pretty good coach when you got 2 guys who can shoot it like that.
Exactly. Look at the explosiveness and the athleticism by Zach Andrews, and then Gavin the awareness on the inbound steal to Thomas up no and a foul.
And Zach Andrews putting it on the floor. Able to get to the rim, saluting his teammates who were all standing and applauding his efforts. We're going to take another look at him get to the rim. All of a sudden, Gavin just jumped in front. You didn't quite see the steal, but that's what led to Thomas getting a chance at a couple of free throws.
Yeah, Gavin, a guy we touched on, walked down at Bradley, didn't actually play after his freshman year of high school. Diagnosed with Crohn's disease and unable to play. Great story, though, for him just to stick with it. Didn't play much at Bradley, then ultimately had a couple stops, ended up at Winthrop, and turned in one of their best scorers.
That's called perseverance and love of the game. Still playing today.
Good find to Presley underneath. Tried to draw the foul, didn't get the whistle. Andrews, locked back to Andrews, who lays it in.
Oh, the unselfishness of Tony Bennett on display.
Seemed like PrimeTime is ready to make a run. Always a Brave with a response. Great ball movement, however. Davis knocks down a big three.
That is terrific recognition by P.J. Heath. He drew the defense, and Mike Davis.
That actually, his foul's going to put Always a Brave in the bonus. A huge shot, however.
How about Andrews? The unselfishness of Tony Bennett and the hustle of Andrews, and then the extra pass. Again, both teams showing tremendous unselfishness. Make that extra pass, get an open look. We saw it with the sprinting of Andrews in the finish, and then Heath drawing the defense. Mike Davis burying the three. As we talked about earlier, these are 2 very well-coached teams. And you can see that these guys enjoy playing with each other. You know, when you make that extra pass, it's all about unselfishness. It's chemistry and doing an excellent job.
Gavin splits a pair, about a 6-second differential shot clock to game clock. Moore got some mismatch down low. They're looking to clear out for Presley, and Always a Brave will switch. Davis, quick trigger three. That's going to be a foul on Presley, I believe, pushing off of Barnes, and he'll shoot 2. Talk about, you saw Chuck Bisher there, talked about his Peoria ties. We mentioned this last night, but a tremendous basketball community, a lot of talent at the high school level. The Peoria All-Stars joined this because they heard about Always a Brave joining. A lot of those guys have played together. Talked about the late Wayne McLean last night and his ties at 3-time state champions in a row, I should say. 3 consecutive state championships, Peoria Emmanuel High School, that Frankie Williams, Marcus Griffin, and guys like Sergio McLean, all on the same team that got a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, believe it or not. They all started together, and a lot of these guys from Peoria too. So while Chicago might be the best city in the country at breeding talent, there's a lot more in Illinois.
Some would argue that Chicago being #1 in the country, wow. Yeah. Well, you do live in Chicago, Brian, so I understand that. But I think New York City, Washington, D.C., there's a couple of areas that might argue that.
Correct.
Discussion for another day, perhaps.
Absolutely.
But you are correct about talent coming out of Peoria.
Yeah.
We have seen it here today and certainly last night as well.
Always a Brave on top 15. We're through 3 quarters here in Columbus. We'll go to the 4th. PrimeTime trying to chase down the 5 seed. Always a Brave. Have when we come back on ESPN 3. Back here to begin the 4th quarter of play between Always a Brave and PrimeTime players. Always a Brave is led by as many as 18. They take a 15-point lead into the 4th quarter. Again, we need to remind you of the new rules that we have coming up here and the Elam ending. Essentially, what we'll do is we get to the under 4 mark, first stoppage, any dead ball situation. The game clock stops, a target score is set. And how you get that target score, you add 7 points to the team leading at that specific time. That becomes the target score, and whoever hits that mark ultimately wins the ball game. In this situation, if this was the under 4 stoppage, the target score would be 59 and the first team to 59 points would ultimately come away with the win. We saw a great finish with the Elam ending last night between the Peoria All-Stars and West Coast Ronin. Peoria ultimately will take on Team Fredette, but they led by 5. We had multiple possessions at the end where teams had a chance to win it before Montel James from Peoria ended up with the game winner.
And then we saw perhaps one of the highest ever Elam endings with the West Virginia team. The winning point total was 113. I don't think we'll be close to that here this morning, but
that would take quite the offensive outburst.
But we have a chance to duplicate that exciting finish from the Peoria All-Stars. I think PrimeTime's got at least one more spurt left in them. And the question is, can Always a Brave, can they hold them off? Austin Barnes at the line. Interesting young man. Started out as a hockey player.
He's got some cool trick shots that Always a Brave was putting out on Twitter. Out of Lansing, Michigan. But I agree with you. PrimeTime, they finally hit a couple of shots in that third quarter, and from their guys that typically hit them. So let's see if that gets them going. Moore being one, Terrell Smith another.
We got Moore and Davis in there at the same time. 2 guys who can fill it up in a hurry. They're going with their smaller lineup, so we'll see if Always a Brave can take advantage of that, or perhaps PrimeTime by going smaller, a little quicker. More action going to the rim.
Look at that interception by Andrews to maneuver around Presley.
Andrews has really been a spark on the defensive end.
Andrews. Too many.
Next time, take the bus. He may get away with that when he's playing in Bangkok, but he's not going to get away with that here in Columbus. Actually, good help side defense by PrimeTime, sliding in there and forcing Andrews into the turnover.
Always a Brave to pick up the pressure in the backcourt. Davis will walk it up and give it to Moore. Good by J.J. Twy, who's riding him at the hip. What a spin move by Moore, and he lays it in.
Moore is showing why he was such a dangerous player at Charleston Southern in the Big South.
Twy from 3 is no good.
And once again, Andrews going to the offensive glass, keeps it alive.
And hands back to Ruffin near the timeline, who is directing traffic, and a pass to create a passing lane to get it into Somerville. He had the undersized Davis on him, who commits the foul.
And how about Moore with the spin? J.J. Twy thought he was going to back it out, and you can see him stand up, and once he stands up, Moore able to get by him and get the easy basket.
Slashing to the basket and laying it in is Austin Barnes.
And that's Jeremy Crouch, the head coach, earning his money. Dead ball situations, baseline out of bounds, nice easy play. Yeah, mismatch in the post with Gavin. Good read.
Moore, right wing 3 is down. Good sign for PrimeTime if they want to stick around. But he's got the last 5 for PTP.
You might see a lot of that, because if you can go inside out action, you create some advantage, disadvantage, because Gavin can't guard the post one-on-one.
And Davis nearly picked the pocket of Andrews.
You see a nice inside out action. Once Somerville doubles down to help. Good read, the kick out. Nice shot by Moore.
Gavin on the hesitation dribble. Nobody stepped out to fully help, and he lays it in.
You know, 2 lefties playing against each other. Both of them able to get to their strong hand.
Smith Hand up, contested by Barnes. It doesn't matter as Smith knocks down another. He's made his last 2 from distance. Back to a 12-point game. And you know, we talked about pregame. Time cannot run out to you, so as long as PrimeTime keeps it close, they got a shot.
Yeah, that old coaching cliche at the end of the game that you didn't lose, time just ran out. Well, that is not in play in the basketball tournament, thanks to the Elam ending.
Sally and Bennett in as Andrews and Twy will exit. And PrimeTime's really has been riding their say PrimeTime players. That's just the worst thing ever, pun that I could say, but just their top scorers. Moore and Smith trying to get back into this one. Somerville shoots over Chris Moore and scores.
Yeah, that's the experience level. He waited until the double team went away, able to make it over a smaller defender.
And Moore scores at the other end. He's starting to feel it.
He's telling his teammates, hey, come on, get out my shoulders. I'm going to take you home.
PrimeTime needs to stop now. Nearly picked off, finds Somerville, and that one's way too long. They'll stay with always a brave 10 on the shot clock.
And see Chris Moore against the slower Austin Barnes, able to get into the interior.
Kicked back out. Good pump fake. Barnes for 3. And PrimeTime does get that stop they desperately needed. And they get into the hands of Moore. He's got 7 of the last 10 for PrimeTime. Guarded by Gavin this time. Steps into one.
Once again, one and done on the miss. You almost feel like we're going to run something for Somerville on this possession.
It's the 4th team foul now already on PrimeTime. 0 for Always a Brave here in the 4th. So next one will put the Bradley alumni squad at the line.
And we're nearing that 4-minute mark in the beginning of the Elam ending, and if you're PrimeTime players, you got to try and inch a little bit closer so you don't dig yourself too deep of a hole.
Ruffin to inbound. There's Victor Street. He played some important minutes off the bench in the first half of PrimeTime. They leave Gavin for 3. Good effort by Bennett to try to keep it alive, but it'll go back to PrimeTime. Trying to get within 10 or within single digits with a long one.
You look at the clock, 4:44. You probably have about 2, maybe 3 possessions total until we go to the Elam ending.
There's an offensive foul as Ruffin stepped in front of Barnett.
That is terrific help side defense by Ruffin. He leaves his man. He takes it right in the chest.
Ruffin working an alley drill on Victor Street.
I'd say you look at Daniel Ruffin, and he looks like he's about 16 years old.
Joke made that joke about Jamal Crawford last night. Same type of thing, I agree. They never age. Must be nice.
He's still playing with that same enthusiasm, same energy level.
And it's Always a Brave team. Talked about their age and one of the older teams in this regional, but don't tell them that. Look at the shape they're in. Marcellus Somerville's 36.
I'm telling you. Well, he understands.
Played pretty much all game.
He understands about keeping his body in shape. There's a reason why he is still playing for money overseas.
Smith gets a look from deep and hits again. And PrimeTime does get within single digits, down 9. And now the next dead ball, we will stop and set the target score for the Elam ending. A lot of times we've seen teams with the lead take a timeout immediately to set that score.
And see, and that's interesting here that they chose not to take the timeout. They could have taken the timeout and then gotten the first possession of the Elam ending. So we'll see if that comes back to haunt them.
Momentum in favoring PrimeTime. First team to 66, 59-50. The current score. You're watching 2018 TBT on ESPN3. Elam ending time here in Columbus. Again, to explain the rules, dead ball, first dead ball into the 4 minutes, which just took place, will set the target score. The game clock officially off. Shot clock still in play. The target score adds 7 points to the team that's leading. That was 59. So even Rich and I can do this math, and that certainly helps that there's a big number in the corner that showcases 66 points is the target score. First team to reach that total will win this one.
And for those of you who are thinking the Elam ending, is that an acronym? No, it's somebody's name. Nick Elam is the young man who came up with this ending. A professor at Ball State actually sent a 67-page white paper thesis on this to one of the co-founders, John Mugar. A way to take away the strategy of hack-a-shack and all the fouls that come at the end of games sometimes that you'll watch. It creates a little difference in this tournament than in any other basketball tournament in the world.
And we talked last night. I love it. I think it just takes away some of the anticlimactic finishes we see at different levels. And I love just trying to evolve and change some things. And we saw it last night in a small sample have a huge effect on the end of the game.
Came down to the last possession. Both teams, Peoria All-Stars and West Coast Ronin, both teams had a chance to win it. It was Peoria All-Stars. We see PrimeTime, who has to come from a bigger deficit. Sean Barnett got them on the board first.
Job by Zach Andrews. Knew he was going to draw in contact. Always a Brave trying to get 7 points. And well, PrimeTime trying to outscore 14-6 the rest of the way, up 2-0 since we kicked off this Elam ending. Andrews comes up empty on the first. Already in the bonus is always a Brave.
Here's the other thing that happens, too, that I've noticed in the 2 games yesterday. All of a sudden, you get to the Elam ending, and the defensive intensity increases. And you think about it, in a regular game, there's still 4 minutes to go. Guys don't feel that sense of urgency. Now, all of a sudden, they do.
And you really value each possession.
Exactly.
And these teams have been intense defensively as Smith nearly knocked another contested 3 down. Finds more. Withers, who had a couple in the first half. Davis hit one here in the second. They can't connect this time. That would have been a big shot for PrimeTime.
You know, Davis hesitated, caused him to miss short, but you're absolutely right. That would have been a huge shot, a huge lift for PrimeTime players.
Both of these teams extremely experienced in TBT. Bennett has one rim out.
The other thing that you'll see, I think, develop as more teams play this is more teams start to shoot threes.
They do.
As opposed to maybe sticking with what their offense was that got them to this point. But the ability to try and get the quick kill in has created more three-point shot opportunities. On that last one, Davis gets fouled, chance to shoot 3.
Let's see if Davis can connect. And he makes the first. Davis at Queens, a 74% foul shooter. This is his first year playing for PrimeTime in TBT. Just finished up his collegiate career, one of the youngest guys on this roster. And how about that? He makes all 3, and PrimeTime is within 5. This is the closest they've been in quite some time.
And you see how always a Brave comes back. They run their sets, they shoot a quick 3, and they go right into Somerville if they can.
Gavin being ridden off by Davis, had it poked and stolen away, and that is a fortunate foul for Always a Brave, because that would have created a run out for Davis and probably an easy 2, but just the second team foul.
Too much pounding of the basketball by Gavin and not creating enough space. Good defense by PrimeTime, taking away the initial option. We're going to get a timeout.
Timeout by Always a Brave. And this is where you see it, and we talked about this yesterday, the winning team maybe tense up a little bit, and then you have a team like PrimeTime that's just so used to finding a way to win, and they're looking pretty good so far.
You can see Mike Davis keeping him in check. And once he got to that ball screen and stopped, he was in no man's land. And once you come off that ball screen, you either got to turn the corner, go to the rim. Let's listen in.
When you go down, switch it. Okay, yeah, okay. It's something with the screen, bro.
Good communication coming out of that huddle by PrimeTime players, making sure everybody knows their assignments for this offensive possession.
And first to 66. Winner takes on the winner of our next contest, Big X against the Chattanooga Trenches. Step back jumper from Moore. Tip back by Withers. No, there's more again. Dump down to Withers, who lays it in. 3-point game.
All of a sudden, it gets a little bit tighter.
Somerville drives baseline, floater up and in, a big shot.
Ice water in those veins. Somerville has made a lot of big shots in his career.
Davis tries a 3, well off the mark. And Always a Brave can get within 1 possession of a victory with a bucket here.
And that's what I was talking about. You take that quick 3 because you're trying to get 6, 7 points.
Now Somerville drives in, draws the contact, and now has a pair of free throws coming up. Then
when Somerville doesn't get double teamed in the post, he's either going to score or he's going to draw the foul. He's got too much room to create something, and created the foul on that.
Played in Euro Cup, makes the first. So either way, Always a Brave will have a potential 1 possession on their next trip. But this second free throw will really open up their offense next trip and not rely on the three-pointer, which is what we've seen quite a bit.
No, interesting substitution with Barnes in the game for Gavin, a better defensive player.
Wow, and they get the rebound and can win it with a three. They're going to get an opportunity. Bennett. And a foul on Barnes, shoving through Davis. That one nearly halfway down. And Tony Bennett, who had had his second walk-off shot in his TBT career, couldn't quite connect.
Oh, he got a good look at that. He'd like to have that one again.
Boy.
Sometimes when you're that wide open, it makes it more tougher.
Moore will walk it up. PrimeTime desperately need a bucket. And then multiple stops on the defensive end.
Well, they got the mismatch with good job by Barnes.
There's the double team out to Moore. Drives by Andrews, kicks it out. Good pump fake. Barnett to Davis. Skips it to Smith. His three is collected by Somerville, who's been a monster on both ends the last couple of trips.
That was terrific rotation by Always a Brave to not allow an open look.
Ruffin guarded by Davis. Gets by him, but he lost it on his way in. I think he wanted a foul, didn't get the whistle, and it goes back to PrimeTime.
And they keep opening the door. Let's see if PrimeTime players can step through it.
And we saw Patrick O'Brien the first half. He played very well. We have not seen him in the second half. Always a Brave, really been dominant on the interior anyways. A lot of minutes from Andrews and Somerville here in the second half. Same goes for the 5 on the floor for PrimeTime. Barnett for 3.
Not that sure that was the shot that Chris Thomas wanted. Barnett was actually looking to pass, and there was no movement. Kind of forced him to take the 3.
Someone's going to be open. They draw the double, but good recovery by PTP. Lob to Barnes, and an offensive foul on Bennett. 3 consecutive stops by PrimeTime, with Always a Brave potentially trying to close it out with a triple.
This is a nice job by Mike Davis. Slides over, takes it full in the chest. Who says that these guys aren't competing?
My goodness. That was a great play by Davis. Moore gets the ball screen from Withers. Fires up a 3. And now the lid is on the rim for both teams. Bradley on a run out. Somerville is fouled and now can get Always a Brave within 1 point.
Yeah, that's a good foul, because they were going to get a wide open 3 with Somerville leading the break. They had Ruffin and Bennett spotted up on the wing in the corner. So it's better to give up the 2 free throws than the game-winning 3.
First one no good. Missed his last 2.
What do you think? Can Jeremy Crouch sub himself?
He
mean,
played
he's a 3-point shooter.
He
what the heck?
played 2 years ago on the team that went to the semifinals here.
There's been player coaches before.
Yeah, we saw James Bayless last night, for example. Somerville gets Bradley within 2. PrimeTime in a scoring drought over the last several possessions. Withers guarded by Somerville. Both teams in the bonus. Barnett top of the circle. Up top to Smith. He's hit 2 this half. And a potential 4-point play for Terrell Smith, who knocks down the 3.
Yeah, good sportsmanship by Smith. Goes over to help Andrews up. Well, Smith has made shots with guys in his face all night long, or all morning long, I should say. And now he gets the chance for the 4-point play, and all of a sudden, all they got to get is a couple of stops.
Absolutely, they're right back in this thing. Just 2 possessions away from hitting that mark, and a timeout is called by Chris Thomas, and I'm sure he's going to tell his team exactly that.
Well, I'm not going to tell Jeremy Crouch what to do.
One stop. Hey, one stop. Hey, right now on that defensive week, you get Somerville, he's trying to get that baseline on the go ahead and drop back. That help when he's coming on that baseline. Hey, and use the baseline as a sellout for the charge. Yes. Make the not passing. He's not going to pass. But he's not going to pass. Baseline every time. Andrew's not push him. He's not getting you with that chicken when he's scoring. Yeah, he is. Huh? I guess you said all this shots been to the basket. That's why we got to cut that off. But that's what I'm saying. Hey, play like we were playing the last. Play like we were playing, bro. You want me to say baseline? That's what it is. We're getting stopped. Let's go. Make him go middle. He wants to go baseline. Yeah, I say let's go. Like you can play defense over. I know whenever you do.
I absolutely love that stuff. It's one of the best parts of
And I tell you, great minds think alike, because Chris Thomas echoed just what I was going to say that Jeremy Crouch is telling his team. We're going to post up Marcellus Somerville, whether we're going to get him off of a diagonal screen to get him to the block, but the ball is going to go inside. And Chris Thomas, you can tell he's been coaching since 1991. He knows where the ball is going. He's told his team it's going to Somerville, and if he touches it, he's going to shoot it. So make sure that you don't let him beat you. Make somebody else beat you besides him. And then when the shot goes up, you got to find 5 bodies, because that's the shot that beats you. That second shot, the offensive rebound. We'll see how PrimeTime Players handles it.
And delivering a knockout punch to PrimeTime Players has just been so difficult with their championship pedigree and ECBL Tobacco Road League. Let's see if Always a Brave can deliver it. 1 2-point field goal will end it for the Bradley alumni team.
And there it goes, right to Somerville.
He has it, and he hands to Tony Bennett.
They clear out there in the block.
And he picked the
great
pocket
defense.
to Burnett. Moore to Smith. Step back, gets Barnes in the air. Smith's open for 3, and we are tied at 64.
Oh, man. You think there's some pressure on this next possession?
And a timeout by Always a Brave. Next field goal will win it for either team. And Terrell Smith, who's come alive in the second half, gets PrimeTime even within Always a Brave.
No, I love the heart of this PrimeTime Players team. Never say die. Smith able to free himself coming off that down screen. Chris Thomas in the bench loves it.
Play with your damn authority.
So Jeremy Crouch trying to play.
As you can see, they're trying to rub the ball handler off the high screen. Basically, you call this horns. Whenever you put your 2 post guys at the elbows, it's horns. So you're going to try and rub a guy off and then dive. From looking at that diagram, they're going to dive the opposite post to the block and look inside. So we'll see how PrimeTime Players plays it this time. They did an excellent job last possession.
Here comes the ball screen. Ruffin has it. Behind the back dribble. Gets it again from Somerville on the return screen. Stutter step, flips it out to Somerville. 10 on the shot clock. Here's Bennett. Again, he's been Mr. Clutch. He steps back. He can win it. Off the mark, and it'll stay with Always a Brave. That did not touch the rim, though. Just 3 on the shot clock. But they're going to
They're going to review it. I don't think it did.
Either do I at first glance.
Well, that's the size advantage that we've talked about all game long for always a Brave. That second shot attempt gives them another chance. No, that clearly didn't hit it.
Yeah.
Question is then who does it go off of? You can't really tell from that angle.
That's tough.
You got Somerville and Withers battling for it. And the officials are going to make sure they get this one correct.
So
dare I say this is a $2 million call. Definitely did not hit it, but I'm glad I'm not the official trying to decipher who it went off of.
Yeah, that's tough. You really got to almost freeze it.
It looks, the official called it off of Terrell Smith initially. And Somerville had his arm in there, but they're going to take an extended look at this. Both teams will get a free timeout.
My goodness, that's about as close as you can
The
get.
question is, does Terrell Smith hit the ball, or does he just hit Somerville's arms? On that angle, it looks like it goes off of Smith.
Yeah, I agree.
On the previous angle, one could argue it looked like it went off of Somerville. I hate to play both sides of the fence, but hey, I don't have to make that call. I'm going to try and slow it down, because the ball doesn't ever change direction after Somerville hits that. But remember, the call on the floor is always a Brave. Officials have just come over. Inconclusive. It didn't hit the rim, so we're going to have 3 seconds on the shot clock. 3 of the biggest seconds in this tournament on defense for primetime players.
See what Jeremy Crouch drew up. Spread out on offense. Here comes the cross screen for Bennett. They post up Somerville, and he loses it. And then a foul called on Somerville, and now Moore can win it with 2 free throws.
Wow, what a turn of events. And it looked like Somerville was going to get the ball. A terrific play by Terrell Smith, diving on the floor, knocking it away from Somerville, and then Somerville on the reach.
And primetime, Chris Moore in college, Charleston Southern, 73% shooter, 83% from the line last year. Needs both to win it. There's one.
All right, so this free throw is worth $2 million.
Moore in and out, but batted by Somerville, and it'll stay with primetime, who needs just 1 point to win it.
Oh, this has been a rough Elam ending for Marcellus Somerville.
And a timeout now by primetime. My goodness, what drama. This is just game 1 of 8 here in Columbus today. That's a 30. That's all they have left. And we'll see what Chris Thomas draws up. And just 1 point. So the last thing, if you're Bradley, you can do is foul in this spot. And what if you're Chris Thomas in the huddle? What are you drawing up right here?
Well, Smith has been very effective from the three-point line. Withers in the post. If I'm Chris Thomas, I'm going to put Withers and Smith on the same side, so that you're going to get a one-on-one situation for both players. And the biggest thing right now for always a Brave, A, you got to challenge the shot. B, you got to find a red jersey and make sure that you block out so you don't give up a second shot opportunity.
See if they go for something underneath. Smith to inbound. He's having problems getting it in. He does. That's Moore driving baseline, goes up, throws it into the hands of Zach Andrews. He's down. Bradley might have numbers if they want to push. They can win it with a field goal.
All right, are we going to go back to Somerville? Their all-time leading scorer. We're going to go to Bennett.
Ruffin has it blocked. And now numbers the other way for PrimeTime. Barnett will wisely pull it out. Picks up his dribble, gives to Moore. Moore guarded by Somerville, and they ISO him up top, and now they...
I'd be looking for Curtis Withers.
10 in the shot clock. Here's Barnett, guarded by Andrews. He'll dribble it to the top. Just 1 point to win it for PrimeTime. He puts it off the glass and misses it. And now Andrews has it, and he'll walk it up for Always a Brave.
Nice play by Mike Davis, taking him out of their offense, not allowing Ruffin to get the ball back.
Nearly a foul. Bennett weaves in, fades, and is off the mark. And saved in by Withers. Great hustle and a timeout taken. The last one for PrimeTime, and both teams have multiple opportunities to win it, just can't get that knockout punch.
Right, Tony Bennett has had some good looks here in the last couple of possessions. And Always a Brave, no foul out front, but Bennett, a good look, a little 7-footer. Withers challenging, but a makeable shot.
Yeah, definitely had a look at it, and a guy that's made so many big shots for this group comes up empty. And
as we listened into that PrimeTime huddle, good point by Victor Street, the veteran. Got to get movement. You know, so often, as we've seen here in these possessions for both teams, 4 guys standing around, 1 guy trying to win it. You got to get a little people movement, some ball movement, shift the defense, and get an easier shot.
Bradley will provide the pressure, and Moore has it. He'll be guarded by Ruffin. Moore, who helps kickstart this comeback for PrimeTime. He's ridden by Ruffin. Gets the ball screen. Here's Moore. He gathers himself, fires it out to Davis. Barnett to Davis. He can win it. Davis does!
Mike Davis. What a comeback.
PrimeTime is moving on after an incredible comeback here late in the Elam ending. And they'll take on the winner of Big X versus the Chattanooga Trenches. Always a Brave, led by as many as 18. And PrimeTime delivered late.
Well, if you turn this game off early, boy, did you make a mistake. Mike Davis on the kick out. They make the extra pass. Davis gets the return pass. And once he got his feet set, it was automatic. Nobody challenged. And Mike Davis, who did so often at Queens College in Charlotte, making big shots, none bigger than that one right there.
Yeah, and Davis, again, we talked about it, so difficult to deliver that sort of final blow to PrimeTime just with that winning pedigree. And there you get a look, they're putting their name, and they are moving on. PrimeTime, an incredible comeback win to knock off Always a Brave. That'll wrap it up here, but don't go anywhere. Coming up shortly, our next matchup, Big X versus the Chattanooga Trenches. Winner takes on PrimeTime players. You're watching 2018 TBT on ESPN3.